Thank you very much. We'll move on to the next candidate, please.
Good evening. My name is Glenn Crook. The strategic goal of the Brandon School Division is engage all, and I emphasize, and they emphasize in their document, all students actively in learning through the provision of equitable, fair access. Yet their academic development statement reads, 80% of all students achieving curricular outcomes. Well, what happens to the other 20%? That is 1 out of every 5 students. If I am elected, higher outcomes will be achieved. That's my bottom line. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Please.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Oryat. Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Murray. My wife, Margaret, and I are both lifelong Brandon residents. We have had 3 sons graduate from Vincent Massey and now have 4 granddaughters attending at Meadows and New Era. I want to ensure that all children have access to the quality of education that my family and I have had access to and that it continues to improve. I want education to remain vital and responsive to the changing needs of our students. To do this, we need to fund education properly, we need to manage our resources properly, and we need the ability to be able to attract and retain quality teachers and support staff. If our children are going to be successful contributing members of society, we must provide the best education possible while at the same time being respectful of our taxpayers. I believe that I have the experience, the knowledge, and the passion to find that balance. I respectfully ask for your continued support as a school trustee. Thank you.
I'd like to begin by welcoming everybody to the forum this evening. My name is Patrick Pulak. I'm currently the Deputy Director of Engineering Services and Water Resources for the City of Brandon. I was born and raised in Brandon. My wife is a teacher at Earl Oxford, and we have 2 children currently enrolled at River Heights School. Every 4 years, we get this opportunity as trustee candidates to explain to you why we think you should vote for us. Without a doubt, each of us here today will express in one way or another that we have a vested interest in providing the best education possible for our children. Noble as that is, in my opinion, that's not enough. Passion, honesty, experience, and a willingness to express new ideas are all qualities I feel are necessary to be a successful school board trustee. I am prepared to offer this and more in pursuit of a better future for our children. In closing, I'd like to say that legacy is defined as anything handed down from the past. The question is, what legacy are we prepared to pass on to our children's generation? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Linda Ross, and first I'd like to thank the Brandon Sun and WCG for providing this opportunity. By profession, I am a psychologist. I'm employed at Brandon University, and I have been teaching for some 20-some years. In addition, I have held administrative positions, which have given me a variety of experiences that have been enormously useful in my role as a trustee. My most important role, however, is that I am the mother of 2 children, the youngest of whom graduated from high school this past June. The reason I'm running for the board is that I think that trustees need to be advocates for children. Adults can advocate for themselves. And secondly, I think it's really important, second important role is to be keeper of the public purse. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Mark Sefton. I was born and raised here in Brandon like many of these others. I'm married. I have 2 kids, both boys in their 20s. My wife, my sons, and I all graduated from Brandon schools. I was a public school teacher in Manitoba for 32 years. The last 19 years of that was spent alternating between being a classroom teacher and a vice principal at Vincent Massey in Crocus Plains. I retired a year ago. My experience in the schools helps me to prepare to be a trustee. I know the strengths and weaknesses in Brandon School Division. I know the issues. I understand education finance and education law. During my career, I was always proud to put kids first. Their needs were my #1 priority. This would be my focus as a trustee. I believe it's time for change on the board. We need a board that will listen to the public, have all the details worked out before beginning a new program. I believe we need people who will stand up and ask the challenging questions.
Thank you very much.
That's me.
Candidate Snelling.
Thank you. My name is Marty Snelling, and I first ran in 1995 when I had 4 young children, and the Brandon Sun called me their rookie hopeful that year. So, and this year, I've continued to work, run as a trustee. This summer, I married Elaine Henderson, and I gained 3 more children and another 6 grandchildren. They're not in the Brandon School Division, but they're nearby. I believe strongly in public education, and that the child has got to be at the center of our educational effort. And I've voted in the past to reduce classroom sizes, to put resources into the classroom, and make it the best we can for every child. If you vote for me, I will continue to do that, and I will continue to work hard in the community for the other supports to education, like the Children's Breakfast Program.
Thank you very much, candidate. Next, we're going to move to Kevin Sumner, please.
Good evening. My name is Kevin Sumner. When I chose to run for candidate in the Brandon School Division, I did so in the belief that I offer knowledge and values that I feel will benefit our community. I've built a career on communicating with the public and in working collaboratively to develop and implement long-term plans. Working in community economic development, I have a deep appreciation for the fact that the long-term health of our community depends on the knowledge that we are imparting on our youth today. I believe that our students are fortunate to have access to great educational facilities and exceptional educators and other divisional staff. However, our population is undergoing a faster rate of change than we have experienced in decades. Teachers are facing greater challenges, and some of our parents are frustrated by changes that they feel are being forced upon them. Accommodating the changing needs of our students requires trustees like myself who bring the perspective of young parents to the board.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sumner. Our final opening statement tonight will be from Wade Windmill.
Good evening. My name is Wade Windmill, and thank you for attending this evening's forum. 14% is a number I'd like to share with you tonight. 14% in today's hard economic times, and with your hard-earned money facing ever-increasing tax pressure, our current Board of Trustees have raised their own salaries 14% in the last 2 years. That's correct. They raised their own salaries 14% in 2 years. I certainly know my salary has not been increased 14%. I don't anticipate many of yours has. This is unacceptable financial management, and I would work hard to correct oversights and over expenditures such as this. I've been reviewing the budgets for the next 3 to 4 years as put out by the school division. We're looking at expenses increasing $10.75 million over that time. Right? They're looking at increasing the school portion of our property taxes 19.7% in the next 4 years. That's unacceptable. We need to get these finances under control.
Thank you very much, Candidate Windmill. This concludes the first part, and only the first part, of this evening's trustee forum. We're now going to move into what I believe, having read these questions, is going to be a very tough and exciting evening. Certainly it's going to be very educational and informative. We're going to begin with panelist Allison Dowd of the Brandon Sun, and she has a question.
Thank you, Carrie, and welcome, candidates. My first question is for the half-dozen incumbents that sit before us: Jim Murray, B. Jolly, Peter Bartlett, Marty Snelling, George Bury, and Linda Ross. For the past several years, education tax increases have headed north. In the absence of a change in the provincial funding formula, and given the uncertain nature of those tax incentive grants that pop up each year from the province, do you feel we need to swing back towards budget cuts in the Brandon School Division to prepare for tighter funding times? And I'll get Jim Murray to answer first.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. There have been tax increases in every year except last year. The original TIG that was offered to the board was unacceptable. We turned it down. The board then lobbied the provincial government, which did come back with additional funding, which allowed us to put in the enhancements we wanted with a 0% tax increase. The problem is that the province isn't putting in the share of money that they should be putting into, but the needs of our children aren't changing. The needs of the children in Brandon School Division are increasing.
Thank you very much.
So maybe I'll just follow up, and for all the following candidates, maybe you could make sure you gear your question towards what I asked, and that would be, do you feel we need to swing the pendulum back towards budget cuts, given the fact that the province doesn't seem to be moving on its funding formula?
I don't think that we should be moving towards budget cuts. I think that we need to be managing our resources as tightly as we can. But with the needs of our children, we can't be cutting our budget. Definitely we need to review programs and make sure that everything we're offering is relevant. But with the immigration that we've had in our school division and the EAL students, because we're a magnet for special needs, I don't believe we're going to be in a position where we're going to be looking at budget cuts.
Thank you. Trustee B. Jolly?
Well, currently we provide a wide scope of programs and services to our increasingly diverse population. If we had to cut, it would mean that we cut staff and programs. This means that we cannot give the appropriate education to all children. The board has a difficult time with this. Each year we have to look at all the enhancements. We have to look at the money and where it comes from. And so we have to balance the requirements of staff with the voices of the taxpayer.
Thank you, B. Our next candidate would be Peter Bartlett.
Thank you very much. No, I don't think that in the immediate year that we're looking at budget cuts. Yes, I agree with Jim Murray that we do have increased student needs, particularly with our students that are new to this country, have created a tremendous additional cost to this city. It's my opinion that immigration needs to put dollars in our hands in order to make that balance work in our favor. We've also put in place a sustainability policy which will help us review carefully, accurately, those which are in fact long-term sustainable.
Councillor Snelling.
Thank you. I don't support cuts that are going to increase classroom size, and the teaching staff is the largest part of our budget, so I don't support those cuts. Our EAL resources that we've put in this year may not be needed in future years. And the third point would be that our early years funds we've put into increasing literacy and numeracy are paying off now. Our graduation rate has increased to 80%.
Thank you, Marty.
Mr. Bury.
Yes, I don't see us making any budget cuts. I think we're basically providing the services that are required. I do hope that we can work with the government again, lobby successfully again, get the money we need to keep what we have. So this is my hope right now. Thanks.
All right, and Linda Ross?
Thank you. I would be surprised to see any budget cuts. It's possible that we might redistribute some money depending on particular needs, but I want to remind people that if we cut, those cuts have to come out of personnel, that is, out of teachers. And we're gambling here with the futures of our children. And as I said, my primary role as trustee is to advocate for kids, because adults can advocate for themselves.
We'll move on to the next question. It's from Devon Ross of the Brandon Sun.
This question is for the challengers Sefton, Hamilton, Pulak, Boslaw, Crook, and Windmill, in that order. While many in the community believe that our school taxes are already too high, others point out that our school tax mill rate is among the lowest in Manitoba and argue that a substantial tax increase is justified. Do you regard our comparatively low mill rate as evidence that a tax increase is justified?
I'm Mark Sefton. To say that a tax increase is justified because the mill rate is low, I don't think those two things go together naturally. We do have a low mill rate, that's true. That could be credited to good management. But I would like us to turn the conversation away from cost and turn it instead to investment in kids, investment in our future. We all know what our costs are, but we don't consider bank accounts as costs. We consider them investments. I'd like to see us do the same thing with education. Kids matter.